We are here to talk a little bit of prep football because, believe it or not, at halftime of whatever respective game you might be at or paying attention to on Friday, that is the official halfway point of the regular season, believe it or not. We have meandered through 3 weeks for, I guess, is week 0 really a week, or is that, not? Garbage. Okay. So, yeah, it'll be halfway through.
The term is ridiculous. God, we talk about this every year. God, what a dumb term. Week 0.
But we have successfully kind of negotiated our way through almost half the season. And, I guess we're just here to talk about, teams, success stories, things like that. And speaking of success, knock on wood, we have gotten through 3 weeks, boys. What are your thoughts on this experiment of sorts being at least 3 weeks 3 weeks in without a whole ton of disruption, I guess?
I think we've learned that every day is different. What we've got going on today is totally different than what we might have going on tomorrow. And, there will probably be some other games that'll get bagged between now and then, and some other games will rise up, and we'll get through it. It's just the way it is.
One of the things that I don't know if impressed is the word, but the flexibility of schools and staffs. I mean, when you look at what Waterloo West went through, their homecoming week, they had their original game get wiped out. Then they had a replacement. That game got wiped out. And then you end up with Anamosa and Waterloo West, 2 programs I never thought I'd see take the field with each other. But it just goes to show you that, programs, coaches, administrators are being flexible, trying to do whatever they can for kids to be able to play. Since we do have a season and people of those programs are healthy. It's also created some pretty interesting matchups like Anamosa at Waterloo West, just because of the, there are 2 schools you never thought that would compete against each other. Then you have Western Dubuque going to Indianola. Just some interesting matchups that have come about because of this.
Talk about flexibility. You talk about Regina. I mean, I think both of the first 2 weeks they end up playing Pleasant Valley, and then they go all the way up to Clear Lake and they win.
Yeah.
And then kudos to them for playing a 4A and a 2A.
It just goes to show that you don't need to prepare for games, right? These game planning and everything that these guys do, it's all overrated.
Yeah, right. I think the fact that the playoff scenario is a little bit different, and now that teams aren't going to have to worry. Okay, if we go up and play, or if we go over and play Pleasant Valley and get our butts handed to us, it's not going to affect us. Everybody's making the playoffs, so why the heck not? These games, I won't say they're glorified scrimmages or anything like that, but, teams aren't going to be penalized like an Anamosa going to Waterloo West. Their postseason is going to be the same. Or Clear Lake bringing Iowa City, Regina up and losing by a point. Their playoff fate isn't going to hinge on that.
And it, too, it's like, all right, well, if we absolutely have a chance, even if it's on a day notice or 2 days notice for an opponent, and to actually get a game in, none of these teams are really guaranteed anything in the future. So why not? If we can somehow, even if it's on incredibly short or no notice, play a game on Friday night, let's freaking do it, because we don't know what's going to happen, in the future. So that's been incredibly. That's been incredible, really. But how many? I haven't counted specifically, but it's well under 10 this week that aren't playing. Is that right, boys? Teams?
I don't know. Are we counting Iowa City and Des Moines schools?
Well, no. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm just talking like teams that maybe are in quarantine
Yeah.
this week.
I know Independence Crestwood's off. That's one I heard recently.
Green County, I think Ogden are two schools that are off as well.
But it's been
obviously Kennedy.
Yeah. Linmar. But, I guess maybe I'm a little encouraged that the numbers still are pretty low. I don't know what you guys think. And school's back in session for just about everybody but, Cedar Rapids right now. So maybe that's a good thing.
Probably been a pleasant surprise.
Do you think so?
I think so. It seems like the smaller schools are having less problems than the larger schools.
Now, let's turn the page to what you guys were talking about a second ago. Des Moines Public Schools are not playing. Iowa City Public Schools are not playing because they are not conducting any classes at all in person. It's all online. The only thing I'll say is I think these kids are being used as a political football, pun intended. And that part is what really bothers me. I'm not saying what's wrong or what's right, but it does to me feel like it's just a totally political issue, and these kids are caught in the middle of it. What do you guys think overall on that part of it?
Oh, it's tough. I mean, you can kind of see both sides. I mean, you sure don't want the kids not to be able to play football.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on in Des Moines is, there's a lot of politics going on, and I don't know how it's going to be resolved. It probably won't be resolved until after the football season's over. I don't know. I saw that one of the top players at Des Moines Roosevelt, he up and transferred to Dowling, right? This week.
I did not see that. No.
So just so he could go play football. I don't know. Is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know. Probably just depends who you talk to.
One of the things with football starting that I thought separated it from baseball and softball was the fact that they're going to be exposed to the student body in the fall. The fall sports are going to have a bigger hurdle because they're going to be in the general population, for lack of a better term, with the student body. Not saying schools or prisons, but they're going to be exposed to so many different people, and that was going to put the athletic teams, you're going to make them a little more vulnerable, because they're going to be exposed to so many people. Unlike baseball and softball, where they didn't have classes, they weren't, they could kind of limit their bubble. From my understanding, and it's a real remedial understanding, they're not being allowed to do this because they're not in the classroom 50% of the time. Well, sports would be better off by an online curriculum. You know what I mean? Sport, for some reason, they're saying, okay, you're not in school, no activities. When in fact, if they were just doing activities, they'd be safer than they were in the classroom. Maybe not safer, but they'd be exposed to a smaller group of people. It just doesn't make that much sense to me. I mean, it seems, excuse my language, it seems ass backwards, for activities to take the fall here because the school isn't operating at a 50% in-person basis.
No, I agree with you. That's the thing. Well, everybody's if you're not not safe enough to go to class at all in person, then why you're not safe enough to be in an activity. Well, that's like you said, KJ. That doesn't make any sense to me. You could say you're probably safer
Right.
because your bubble is that much smaller, literally. So it's just to me, it's just unfortunate that these kids are, and it's no fault of the kids, right? That's the part that kind of makes me most upset is, you have one side, you have the other side. There's no compromise. There's, and here these kids are, all they want to do is play. They've done everything they've been asked, and probably more. And yet they're the ones that are, kind of caught in the middle here and not getting the opportunities that they really have worked hard for. And that, to me, that's the most unfortunate part, I guess. So,
Right.
and it would be a shame if Iowa City or Des Moines or whatever doesn't get a chance to play another football game. Hey, just from a team standpoint, I thought Iowa City West, and watching them a couple weeks ago, they were really good. And you got a kid like Marcus Morgan who's trying to get a D1 scholarship, maybe to play football somewhere, and he's not getting that opportunity now to showcase his skills. So just an unfortunate situation all the way around to me. So should we start in 4A, guys? What's your reaction, I guess, from what we've seen so far in Class 4A? Dowling actually lost a game. Probably won't lose another one, but, lost to Johnston last week. The Power to me certainly seems like it's where we all thought it would be, and that's in suburban Des Moines, right?
Right.
Yep.
And doesn't Dowling have this little toe stub in the regular season where one year they lost to Ankeny Centennial and everybody thought, okay, this was going to be the time that they get knocked off. And then it was a Valley, and it's, okay, Valley's finally supplanted them as the top team. And then you have Johnston now, but yet Dowling still has gone on and seem to get things right in the postseason. So, saw the Johnston win, but again, it kind of one of those little shoulder shrugs, like, okay, we'll see in about 4 or 5 weeks where both teams are at.
Who's the best team in 4A?
On our side of the state.
Oh boy.
Yeah, don't know.
I would have thought it was.
Are we counting Iowa City West?
Sure.
I think if they're playing, it's Iowa City West.
Yeah. I would. That's a very solid vote from being able to see them. Yep.
I thought it would have been Cedar Falls until Prairie knocked them off. And that kind of threw things for a loop. But I have to agree with Linder there. Probably West, and I know Washington's 3-0. I think there's still a little bit of a question mark there just to see. Okay, they had the win against Kennedy, which was impressive. The wins against Jefferson and Marshalltown, we'll see. It's they're wins, but how good a win, are each of those? But I think the verdict's still out on Wash.
Big game this week.
And call me crazy. Let's throw Iowa City West out of the mix. The best team in Eastern Iowa playing right now might be Dubuque Hempstead.
Really?
I can see that.
Maybe.
I can see that.
If you want to throw something a little bit non-traditional out there.
How about Prairie? Prairie's pretty good, right?
Prairie, Kennedy. I mean, it's kind of like Central Iowa with all the suburban schools, but there's probably 5 or 6, 7 teams over here that are good. Not at that level, but I mean, we just don't know what the pecking order over here is yet. And I thought Bettendorf was going to be better than they are. I was really surprised when they went over to Washington and got beat. I tell you, Pleasant Valley's kind of laying in the weeds. I mean, that big win over Regina looks better and better every week now after what Regina has done since week 1. They beat a very good North Scott team. They weren't overwhelming in beating Muscatine last week, but I think Pleasant Valley's pretty good.
Washington plays Dubuque Senior. I think Dubuque Senior's pretty good, too.
I think they're pretty good, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if Washington goes up there Friday and gets beat.
No, exactly. And Hempstead's lone loss is to Western Dubuque, right?
Which has really turned things around since the first week. I mean, they come back and they beat Hempstead, and they go over to Indianola and win. I mean, I wasn't impressed with Western Dubuque at all that first week, but, the last 2 weeks they've been great.
And that kind of moves us into 3A, which I think has the looks of a really, really solid class when you look, again, very deep. Xavier, Dallas Center Grimes, Washington, Iowa. Look how many wins over 4A schools that some of these schools have, some of these teams have already. So I think 3A is really good. Don't you agree, guys?
I think 3A's really showed how much I don't know about football, to be honest. When you're sitting there, to be totally honest with Xavier, I didn't expect them to be 3-0 right now after Boston. I love their coaching staff. Obviously, we've worked with them for a long time. I don't know if there's not a better staff as far as getting the most out of people and being able to run a system and put the pieces in place to run that system. But I thought the cupboard was bare for a year or two, to be honest. I know it's not going to make me real popular when I show up at Xavier on Friday for the game against Newton, but I was surprised they were 3-0. Decorah.
Yeah.
The way Decorah has come out and gone 3-0, even though all three of them have been late game thrillers, they've really won by kind of the skin of their teeth. But those wins have been against a really, really good walk-on team, and a West Delaware team that had absolutely throttled the three previous opponents. And then you mentioned Washington, Iowa already. That win against Bettendorf was an eye-opener. Then they turn around and beat Solon, who had kind of been maybe their nemesis, I guess, a little bit. And then, I think it was Fort Madison this last week. Wasn't maybe as big of a margin as we thought it would be, but they still won by 22 points. So, 3A, I think the teams in 3A that have come out and started 3-0 have really surprised me here.
We haven't even talked about Davenport Assumption, which I think is a really good team. Harlan has 3 really good wins over Grinnell, Pella, and Glenwood. Yeah. And so, 3A to me is – and, 3A to me has been just outstanding here in the early going. And, hopefully that'll continue here. 2A, to me, as always, is the hardest class to me because it's your non-district games. You have some schools that play up against 3A competition, some that go down and play against 1A competition. Waukon, who I think was our number 1 team, right, going into it, lost to Decorah in a close game. What are your guys' impressions maybe at 2A so far?
I think the teams up in Northwest Iowa are really good. That District 1's really strong. West Lyon, Central Lyon, GLR, they've really been impressive early. Esterville, they've surprised me. I've got PCM at number 1 where I've had them all year, but Mount Vernon's had a nice start.
Yeah. Yep.
Can we address something since you said Esterville, Lincoln Central? Can we talk about the little icon that we have? That is a fantastic little icon there for ELC.
What is that, by the way? Obviously, a weightlifter.
Just a small little midget. Man.
I'm not. I think I said it to Jeff. I said it to you. I'm I'm not quite sure if I'm supposed to be offended by that logo or, I think it's
I'd
the
like to
most
get
awesome
one of those
thing.
and put it on my shelf.
But yeah, I mean, they're off to a 3-0 start as well. We mentioned Des Moines Christian. That's another school that's on, I think, quarantine for one more week. They're in our top 10 as well. But Williamsburg and Mount Vernon around here certainly, I think, have been most impressive. Walk-on kind of picked itself up after that loss, to Decorah. So,
I really think Waukon will be a team that, I mean, that 1 point loss to Decorah right now doesn't look nearly as bad, for lack of a better term.
oh yeah,
Right there. Williamsburg looked impressive, and of course their Brady Stadium. If you guys, the turf field and what they have going on down there, boy, it's sharp.
Your facilities are really nice down there.
Yeah, and they look good. They're still young. They don't have much size up front, but they've got a really tough defense. And between Waukon and Williamsburg, I wouldn't be surprised if they're both in the dome.
Class 1A, as we look at it, has a bunch of 3-0 teams as well, led by OABCIG and Iowa recruit Cooper DeJean, or DeJean, I guess it is. He's got, I think, already over 1,000 yards passing in 3 games. Just a dynamic athlete. But, then you look at the rest of it. You got Van Meters, undefeated, Underwood's in there. South Central Calhoun, I know we have ranked highly. A lot of 3-0 teams right now. And then you look at it around the area, I guess Sigourney Keota is really the only one in our area that is undefeated right now at 3-0. Guys, what do you think about 1A? The Savage Cobras probably still stinging a little bit from not making the playoffs last year, right?
Yeah. They started 8-0 last year, didn't they?
Yeah.
And
lost the last game.
Yeah. I think OABCIG is still a pretty substantial favorite as long as DeJean stays healthy. But there's some good teams there. You talked about Underwood and South Central Calhoun and Sigourney, and is maybe like an Emmetsburg or a South Hardin or a Woodward Granger. Maybe laying under the radar a little bit. That might be better than we think. I don't know.
KJ, what do you think?
I think it's right now it's kind of a one-horse race a little bit. I would say it's Ida Groves to lose, to be honest. I just don't really see another team to challenge them. But like I said, predictions can only prove how much you don't know. So, Sigourney Keota has been absolutely impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there is a little bit of bitter taste in their mouth from how things played out last year and then missing out on the playoffs. But tell you what, they seem to be on a mission right now.
Class A, we talked a little bit about Regina, playing up and then some in its first couple of games. The loss to Pleasant Valley 45-13 and then going up to Clear Lake and beating a 3A team 21-20. And North Cedar they kind of playing back into their class last week against North Cedar and win 62-0. So, we don't have them ranked number 1. I think there's kind of a Grundy Center is a really, really good team, obviously. St. Ansgar, Wapsie Valley with a big win last week, 21-20, and what must have been a great game against MFL. Edgewood Colesburg hasn't been overwhelming, but it sits there at 3-0, and we all kind of expected that. Lisbon's got a really nice team at 3-0 as well. South Wind is 3-0. Guys, is it Regina and everybody else in Class A, or would you not go that far?
I would say it's Regina, Grundy, and maybe St. Ansgar and everybody else.
Okay.
I think those three are really good. I think Grundy and St. Ansgar both would and probably will be competitive with Regina. Grundy beat Dyke pretty handily. That really kind of opened my eyes. St. Ansgar's always good, really good, and I think those three have kind of separated themselves from the field. Maybe Wapsie is in with that group. I'm not sure.
KJ, I think you saw MFL Marmac last year. Is that accurate?
Right.
And it was a great story because it was literally the first winning season in how many years. It doesn't appear. I mean, they graduated some key guys, especially up front, but this has been a reload, not a rebuild, right?
Right, and that's what's amazing. That I think they didn't have a single starter back up front. They had one guy that was coming back that started last year on their offensive line, and I think sometime between their camp and the first day of practice, they found out that he moved. So, um, they had skill guys coming back, but they've done a nice job of just kind of plugging people in. And like you said, uh, you know, uh, Dan Anderson had seen uh, these guys when they were younger. They had a great junior high performance. I know that sounds silly mentioning last year's junior high teams, but at that level, some of those freshmen are stepping into to play now, and they've got some talented kids come up through the pipeline. It sounds like uh, they're still strong again at that level, but the guys that didn't start last year got meaningful minutes, and that was one of the things that Dan Anderson really kind of emphasized. That yeah, these guys weren't starters last year, but we would get out to big leagues last year, and they would get in and play meaningful minutes. So it was just as they were getting as much time as starters, and they're able to learn, and in game time experience, in game experiences. So that helped them, with that reloading process that you mentioned. And boy, they started out strong, and in that 1 point loss to Wapsie Valley probably doesn't go over well with them, but I think right now they'll take it in stride, and I don't think that's a bad performance at all for them going forward.
Class 8 player, we look at, Don Bosco's only played 2 games and only has a couple blowout wins by the counts of 78-6 and 74-0. So, it appears the Dons are having a down year so far. We have a big game around here tomorrow night, Friday night, with Easton Valley 3-0 and Springville 3-0, and you talk about teams that have scored just a few points. Look at both those, and then you look at Springville, 60 in the opener against Central City, 81-0 against Elkader Central, and 82-0 last week against Clarksville. So I talked to Coach Joe Martin Saturday after their 82-0 win, and asked him seriously how many points he thought it would take to win the Easton Valley game, whoever gets it, and he said it's going to have to be at least 60. So there you go. That's 8-player football, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it should be a good game, right? And it's good to see Springville, which barely missed the playoffs last year. I have another strong team around here, right?
And there's another good game Friday as well. Montezuma and Mr. Touchdown Eddie Burgess goes over to English Valleys, and I think that could be a pretty competitive ball game.
How many touchdowns did he account for last week, KJ? I know you wrote that story on him.
Was it 7 this last week? I thought he's up in the 20s now. After
That's week
10
yeah.
It's absolutely crazy, especially when you think, it's passing, running, it's a return touchdown, 2. He had a couple tackles for loss. It's not a one-trick pony. It's not just have him run around the right end and run one person over and then outrace everybody. he does it in a lot of different ways. Pretty complete player, and of course, Lindy knows this better than anybody. You know, he comes from a pedigree of good athletes. Was a two-time All Big 12 performer and stuff, and a standout at Montezuma, and now the girls basketball coach. I think so. Yeah, I mean he's got the genes, and he's been impressive, and to think he was a tight end as a freshman, and then now they said they wanted our best football player at quarterback, and he made the transition, and the last 2 years have been awesome.
It's kind of funny when you look at 8 players sometimes. The position changes. You talked about Eddie Burgess, tight end to quarterback. You look at Springville, its quarterback this year. Bryce Wilson was center last season.
Really?
He went from center to quarterback. Yeah, and I guess he was a quarterback before last year, but they didn't need him at that position. So I guess they liked his athleticism and made him a center, and now he's back at quarterback. And they moved a tight end who last year, Gabe Delawi, and he's a guard now. So it's funny though.
There are football coaches that are tuning in to watch this, and they immediately just got a headache because now they know any other linemen that are showing up to practice are going, hey, let me throw a pass. Let me go out on a route. The Springville kid did it. So now they already get linemen that come into practice and try to throw and stuff before practice. Say, hey, coach, I can do this. Let's do this play. Just go do your thing. And then now they're going to hear this and go, oh my God, it's going to be worse. Linemen do everything.
You look at the rest of our rankings. I know we've got kind of the usual suspects up there in the top 10 and 8 player. Ottoman, Carmelina Anita Messina, we've got ranked highly. I think Newell Fonda. I'm missing another big one. Remsen St. Mary's. So
Fremont Mills.
Fremont Mills. It's the traditionally strong programs in 8 player, but I still think everybody's probably chasing Don Bosco at this point, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think between them and St. Mary's.
Let's maybe let's look forward now to this week and the rest of the season, guys. We talked a little bit before we started this. It's not really the greatest schedule this week. It doesn't seem like, right, when it comes to marquee matchups.
True.
Right, not in our, at least not in our neck of the woods. There are some out in central Iowa or in northwest Iowa, with West Line Unity Christian in 2A, and then you got Southeast Polk and West Des Moines Valley, Dowling, and Waukee in central Iowa. So there are some big games, just not in this area. And can I mention one thing really quick?
Sure.
When we talked about the flexibility and everything, part of that came last week with Jefferson hosting Southeast Polk, right? And I know you guys are pretty much aware of what happened. I think the game was maybe pretty much cemented Monday or Tuesday. In 4 days, the Southeast Polk community raised $5,000 to donate to the Cedar Rapids community. How freaking awesome was that? For them to be able to do something like that, and we've all experienced this firsthand, just how decimated the community has been. But for Southeast Polk to drum up that kind of effort in 4 days, to come and donate that's the great side of sports right there.
Yeah.
I just thought bringing them up here with the matchup with Valley this week is worth mentioning.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you to everybody at Southeast Polk. I don't know whose original idea it was, but that's awesome. And to raise that kind of money in a matter like KJ, like you said, in a matter of days, and
4 days.
yeah, and to give it to Jefferson to help out with the relief here. That's Iowa, right? Or at least that's what we stereotypically hope is Iowa.
Right.
And that's awesome. So. Real quick, maybe what do you think we should all look for here down the stretch or the last half of the regular season? I guess we're like it or not, we're rapidly approaching that territory where quarantine teams could get their seasons to come to a very quick, unfortunate conclusion, right?
Yeah, we got 4 weeks left. 4
Yep.
weeks left, and then
Yep.
and then we go into the postseason. Yeah, I mean, we're still a couple weeks away from one positive test putting a team to bed. So that's what we knew was going to happen, and we're getting to that point here pretty soon.
We saw in baseball and softball that teams could have state title hopes get washed out. You don't have to look any further than West Des Moines Dowling.
Yeah.
With baseball, Southeast Polk as well with baseball. Coaches right now, I think, need to keep hounding players and themselves, their staff mates. Hey, shrink your bubble. Limit the people, even if it's family, whatever, the people that you live with, your teammates. Make sure you're masked up at school. Whatever they might need to do, it's crucial to start getting that habit now because, like you said, in 2 weeks, somebody's going to come down with a positive case and you're done. So, you're getting to a real crucial point where those things have to be hammered home and you have to be very disciplined because there are 40, 50 other kids that depend on you.
I'm really looking forward, guys, to seeing how this 4A shakes out over in the central part of the state in the next 3 or 4 games. Because I think that it's, as we talked about, I mean, there's so many really, really good teams. To me, it's going to be interesting to find out, and on Eastern side too, who are the best teams, or who is the best team, maybe going into the playoffs. I don't know what you guys think, but to me, that's a kind of a big storyline, or one I'm going to watch here in the last half of the season. So.
Have they said much on how they're going to handle the playoffs? Are they going to go pretty much geography, or you would think that they're going to try to do something to split the good teams up in some way, shape, or form, wouldn't you?
I don't know. I haven't, Lindy, I guess that's something we need to look into, certainly. Geography was supposedly so important when the 7-game schedules came together, right? That's why 4A kind of got blown up. They didn't want teams to travel. Well, that got, thrown out the window with, the Des Moines and the Iowa City schools not being able to play. And, you're seeing like Southeast Polk and Jefferson and, Marshalltown and Western Dubuque and Indianola is a perfect example. So, I don't know. I would think it would probably just be that normal attempted marriage of geography and power.
Yeah.
That would be my guess, kind of moving forward in the playoffs. And
the majority of teams in 4A are going to have a bye in the first round if there's only 40 schools.
If Iowa City and Des Moines are out of the equation, how many would there?
It might be a deal where everybody's got a bye that's still playing.
Yeah.
If there's 32 or left.
Yeah, that'll be very interesting. So, we hope that everybody gets an opportunity. I don't know how realistic that is, but that's obviously what we hope is every team gets a postseason opportunity here. So, final thoughts, guys. Anybody? Nathan, you want to chime in?
I got nothing. No. I got nothing. You guys covered it.
Grinnell, Nathan's Grinnell Tigers are solid 2-1. You know, lost the first game, come back strong. So, anybody else?
No, I think I'm good. I will be at Springville Friday night.
I'm sorry. That's at JT Linder, by the way, on Twitter. KJ, where are you going to be?
I will be at Saints Field for Newton versus Xavier, which has become a civil war in our household. with my wife being a Newton alum and my daughter going to Xavier. I've just been impressed with the amount of trash talk that my 16-year-old daughter can dish out, and maybe a little disturbed by it too. But
Do
you
they
can
have-
follow me at KJ Pilcher for that one.
Do they have a wager on this? How many points is your daughter given, Chris?
I don't think there are any points, and I don't think they've come up with any stakes yet.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, guys, or everybody for joining us. Thank you guys for doing this. Hopefully everybody enjoys it. Nathan, thank you for your work as always. Everybody stay safe and enjoy Friday night where we'll keep you informed. And I don't know, maybe we'll do this again next week. I guess we'll have to wait and find out. So thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time. Take care and stay safe.